I used to think being invisible was the worst feeling in the world. But I was wrong. The worst feeling was being surrounded by people who knew you, lived with you, shared the same roof, yet treated you like a shadow that didn't matter. My family always saw me as the less important one. My older brother, Liam, was the golden child. Straight-A student, charming smile, the son every parent dreams of. My younger sister, Emily, was the princess. The delicate one who needed attention, needed support, needed love. And me? I was the kid who figured things out on his own. The one who didn't complain. The one who didn't ask for help. The one they assumed didn't need anything. For years I watched birthdays pass without a gift. I watched family dinners turn into arguments, where I wasn't allowed to have an opinion. I watched my mother praise my brother's every tiny achievement and my sister's every breath, while I stood there, holding report cards that no one bothered to read. I wasn't angry anymore. I was numb. But the day my life ended, the day everything changed forever, was the day I realized how little I mattered to them. It was raining that night. Hard, heavy rain that hit the roads like the sky had finally lost its patience. I had stayed late at work, again because no one else could cover the shift. And because going home early never meant anything. On the drive back, the roads were slick, the streetlights blurry. I don't remember the impact, just the sound of crushing metal, the taste of blood, and the cold rushing in through broken glass. Then silence, a silence so deep it felt like the world had exhaled and forgotten to breathe again. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in a hospital. I wasn't in pain. I wasn't even in my car. I was standing in my old bedroom. The posters, the desk, the tiny bed, everything exactly as it was years ago. My hands were smaller, my body lighter. I rushed to the mirror, and the reflection staring back at me. It was me, but younger, much younger. I wasn't dead. I was reborn. Reborn into the very timeline I had once suffered through. The same family, the same house, the same people who ignored me. But this time, I wasn't the same. This time I remembered everything, every betrayal, every moment of invisibility, every scar they never noticed. And this time, they were going to need me more than they could ever imagine. Because I knew the future. I knew their mistakes. I knew the disasters coming for them. And I knew that eventually, I would become the only one they needed to survive. My second life had just begun, and I wasn't planning to be invisible anymore. Chapter 2, The Future Only I Remember. Morning sunlight leaked through the thin curtains, painting my room in soft gold. But inside me, everything felt heavy. Rebirth wasn't a miracle. It was a responsibility. I knew what was coming. I knew when my father would lose his job. I knew when my brother's arrogance would cost him everything. I knew when my mother's obsession with Emily would lead to a decision that would break our family apart. And I knew that if I didn't change things, we would all fall the same way we did before. But this time I wasn't the helpless, invisible kid they ignored. This time I had power. I dressed quietly and walked into the kitchen. Breakfast was the same scene I remembered. Liam bragging about his test scores. Emily whining about her missing hair clip. Mom rushing around cooking like she was serving royalty. Dad quietly drinking tea, trying not to exist. No one even looked at me. Morning, I said. Nothing. I could have screamed. And they still wouldn't notice. But instead of anger, I felt a strange calm. This time I didn't need their validation. I just needed to play my role. The role that would eventually turn the power dynamic upside down. I sat down and watched them. They looked perfect from the outside, but I knew the cracks. In 2 months, Liam would make the one mistake that would destroy his perfect future. In 3 months, Dad's company would shut down. In 5 months, Mom would do something unforgivable, something that would change how I viewed her forever. Everything was a countdown, and I was the only one who could stop the clock. I took a slow breath. "You're going to lose your wallet today," I said casually to Dad. He blinked. Finally, someone looked at me. "What?" he asked. "You'll drop it near the bus stop," I replied, eating as if nothing was strange. "You should check your pocket before leaving." He froze, confused. Mom frowned. "Why would you say something like that?" I shrugged. "Just felt like it." Liam laughed. "Weird prediction, dude." But later that day, when Dad walked back into the house looking pale and shaken, holding his wallet tightly in both hands. Everyone turned to look at me at the same time. "I almost lost it," Dad whispered. Someone found it on the ground and handed it to me. The room fell silent. For the first time in a long time. They saw me. Not clearly, not fully, but a little spark. A beginning. I didn't smile. I didn't brag. I simply said, "You should be more careful. Things can change fast." They didn't know how true that was. Because this time, I wasn't the forgotten son. I was the one who knew the future. And soon, I would be the one they needed more than anyone else. Chapter 3. When the future starts fighting back. For the next few days, my family watched me differently. Not with love. Not with appreciation. Just curiosity. Like I was a puzzle they didn't know how to solve. Dad looked at me with quiet gratitude. Mom watched me with suspicion, like she thought I was hiding something. Liam kept trying to laugh it off. Emily stared at me like I had suddenly grown a second head. But none of them knew the truth. I had already lived this life once. And this time, I wasn't going to let our destruction happen again. But the future doesn't like being changed. It hit me first on Wednesday afternoon. I was walking home when I noticed a group of seniors at the corner. One of them, Daniel, the same guy who would ruin Liam's future later in the year. I remembered this moment. This exact street. This exact day. This was when Daniel first approached Liam and dragged him into a world that looked exciting at first, but ended in disaster. But today, he saw me walking. His eyes narrowed. "You, come here." I stopped. Last time I was scared of guys like him. Last time I avoided trouble. Last time I stayed small. This time, I walked straight toward him. "What do you want?" I asked calmly. The other guy smirked, ready for a show. Daniel stepped close. Too close. "You're Liam's brother, right?" The quiet one. The nobody. My jaw tightened, but I kept steady. "Yes, and?" He grabbed my collar. Old me would have panicked. New me didn't. "Listen," he whispered, trying to sound dangerous. "Tell your brother I've got something big coming. Real money. Real power. And he better not say no this time." There it was. The first seed of destruction. I pushed his hand off. "No." His eyebrows shot up. "What did you just say?" "You're not going near my brother," I said softly. "And if you try, you'll regret it." The entire group went silent. A breeze moved through the street. Daniel stared at me like he couldn't believe someone like me would talk back. Then he laughed. A cold, mocking laugh. "You've got guts," he said. "Let's see how long they last." He walked away, but I knew I had changed something. The future was shifting, twisting, breaking, and the universe didn't like it. Later that night, Dad knocked gently on my door. He never knocked on my door. Not before. Not in the old timeline. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded. He stepped in, sat on the edge of my bed, and sighed. "Your prediction about my wallet. How did you know?" I looked at him. How could I explain rebirth? Time reversal? The second chance the universe forced onto me. I simply said, "I pay attention to things." He studied my face for a long moment. Then he placed his hand on my shoulder. "You've grown," he said softly. "I don't know how, but I'm proud of you." My chest tightened. Because in my past life, I never heard those words. Not once. I swallowed hard. "Thanks, Dad." He smiled faintly and walked out, leaving me with a heart that suddenly felt too heavy. I stared at my reflection in the dark window. I wasn't just changing the future. I was becoming someone I didn't even recognize. And tomorrow, the real test would begin. Chapter 4. When a broken girl finally lets her walls fall. I found her on the rooftop that night. The city lights were quiet, soft, almost gentle. But she wasn't. She stood with her arms wrapped around herself, her face turned away, pretending she was fine, pretending she didn't care, pretending she wasn't hurting. But I could see it. I could always see it in her. I stepped toward her slowly, making sure my footsteps didn't scare her. "Why are you here alone?" I asked. She didn't turn around. She didn't speak. She didn't breathe wrong. She was doing what she always did. She was hiding. So I walked beside her, leaning against the railing. For a moment, we just stood there, two people who were never meant to cross paths. yet somehow had become each other's only real home. And then, her voice cracked barely louder than the wind. Why didn't you hate me? I blinked. Why would I? She finally looked at me, and her eyes were full of oceans she never let anyone see. You bought me, she whispered. My own stepdad sold me. My mother didn't stop him. I came into your house angry, ready to fight, ready to destroy everything, because I thought you would destroy me first. My chest tightened. She wasn't angry at me. She was angry at the world that had thrown her away. You didn't hurt me, I said softly. I just wanted you to feel safe. She laughed, but it wasn't happy. It was broken. Safe, she murmured. I've never been safe in my entire life. Her voice shook, but her hands were shaking more. Without thinking, I reached for her wrist, gently, carefully, like she was made of glass. She didn't pull away. That's when I knew. Something inside her was starting to trust me. Little by little, breath by breath, she was choosing me. Look at me, I said quietly. She did. You are not property. You are not a burden. You are not someone's mistake. You are someone I want, someone I choose. Her lip trembled. The girl who fought everyone, the girl who built walls taller than her pain, the girl who refused to cry. She was finally breaking, and she broke right into me. Her forehead pressed against my chest, arms hanging loose at her sides as if she wanted to hug me but didn't know how to ask. So I wrapped my arms around her first, and slow, soft, steady. She didn't fight. She didn't push. She just stood there, breathing like she had been underwater for years and finally reached the surface. After a long minute, she whispered, I don't want to hate you. You never did, I answered. Her fingers curled into my shirt. Not tight, just enough to say she didn't want me to let go. And I didn't. Not that night. Not ever. Because something had changed. The girl who swore she would never trust me was finally letting me hold her heart, and she didn't even realize it yet. Chapter 5, when her fear turned into jealousy. She avoided me the next morning. Not completely, just enough to pretend she didn't care. She made breakfast quietly, moved around the kitchen like a ghost. Eyes lowered, shoulders tight. But every time I glanced her way, she looked away faster. Something was bothering her. Something she didn't want to say. I sat down at the table, leaning my elbows forward. You're quiet today. She didn't look up. I'm always quiet. Not with me. Her hand froze for a second over the stove. Then she continued cooking, pretending she didn't hear me. But she did. She always did. When she finally placed the food on the table and sat across from me, she still wouldn't look at my face. She just pushed her hair behind her ear. The same nervous habit she had on the day she arrived. I let a few seconds pass. Then I asked gently, What happened? She stabbed her fork into the food. Nothing. Liar. Her eyes snapped up, quick, sharp, defensive. I'm not lying. You're angry, I said calmly. And scared. And jealous. Her breath caught. There it was, the thing she thought she hid so well. I leaned back, watching her carefully. Who upset you? She looked away again, this time toward the hallway. That woman, she muttered. I frowned. What woman? The one who came yesterday. The one from your company. She took a shaky breath. She was smiling too much. Standing too close. And you didn't stop her. So that was it. Jealousy, a kind she didn't know how to handle, because she never had anyone she was afraid to lose. I rested my hand on the table, palm up. Look at me. She didn't. But her eyes softened, and that soft anger, that vulnerable fear that only comes from caring too much. Why do you care if she stands close to me? I asked. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. Because I don't like it. Why? She swallowed. Her throat trembled, and finally, because you're mine. The words fell out of her mouth like an accident. Her eyes widened immediately, as if she wanted to take it back and as if she had exposed too much. But I didn't let her run. I reached across the table and took her hand. She went completely still. No, I said softly. I'm not yours. Her expression broke. A pain flashed across her eyes. Until I continued. You're mine. Her breath hitched. Her fingers tightened around mine, small, trembling, desperate. For the first time, she didn't fight the connection. She didn't pull her hand away. She didn't pretend she didn't care. She just whispered, I don't want anyone else near you. Good, I said. I don't want anyone near you either. Her cheeks turned red, not the soft blush of shyness, but the red of someone feeling something she doesn't understand. Possession. Attachment. Love she wasn't ready to name. She stood up suddenly, walking around the table. And before I could react, she wrapped her arms around my shoulders from behind. Her head rested on my back, warm, gentle, trembling. I hate it, she whispered. When other people look at you. I closed my eyes, because this wasn't just jealousy anymore. This was her walls falling, her heart choosing, her fear turning into something she could no longer deny. Her voice cracked softly. Don't leave me. I won't, I said, placing my hand over hers. And for the first time, she believed me. Chapter 6. And the night she finally broke. She was quieter than usual that evening. Not jealous, not angry, not stubborn. Just quiet, the kind of quiet that feels dangerous. The kind that hides pain you didn't see coming. We were both in the living room. She sat on the rug, knees pulled to her chest, hugging them like she was protecting herself from something invisible. The TV flickered, but she wasn't watching. She was somewhere else, lost in memories that still hurt. I sat on the couch and leaned forward. What's wrong? No answer, just a slow breath out. Her fingers tightened around her legs. Talk to me, I said softly. She finally raised her eyes to mine, and what I saw there stopped my heartbeat. Fear, sadness, anger, loneliness, all at once. My stepdad called today, she whispered. That explained it. How? I asked. My mother, she said bitterly. She gave him my number. Her voice shook, but not from fear. From rage. I told her I never wanted to hear from him again, she continued. But she still chose him. Of course she did. The same mother who sold her. The same man who treated her like a transaction. She looked down again, voice barely audible. He said I owe him. He said I should come back and stop embarrassing them. I clenched my jaw. He still believed he owned her. He still believed she was something he could claim. She looked up suddenly, eyes glossy, breath uneven. Am I embarrassing? She whispered. That cracked something inside me. I moved from the couch onto the floor, sitting beside her. She tried to look away, but I gently turned her face toward mine. Listen to me, I said, voice firm. You don't owe him anything. You don't owe them anything. I rested my forehead against hers. You are not embarrassing. You are not a burden. And you are not theirs. Her lips trembled. A tear slid down her cheek. Not a dramatic cry, just a single tear. The kind that comes from a wound that's been hurting too long. I wiped it away with my thumb. She whispered, broken. Then why didn't she protect me? Even once? Because some mothers don't know how to be mothers. Because some people choose convenience over their own child. But she didn't need that answer. She needed something else. I pulled her gently against me, and this time she didn't hesitate. Her arms wrapped weakly around my waist, her face pressing into my chest like she was desperate for a place to breathe. You're safe now, I whispered into her hair. No one can touch you. She shook her head, fighting tears. What if they come back? They won't. You don't know that. I do, because they'll have to go through me first. She clutched my shirt harder, like she was holding onto a lifeline, like I was the only thing keeping her from drowning. Minutes passed. Her breathing slowed. Her body softened. And then, she quietly said the words she once hated. I don't want to lose you. You won't, I whispered. She pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. Those brown eyes, fragile, hurting, brave. Promise me? I promise. Her lip froze, trembling. And then she leaned in, pressing her forehead gently against my chest again, as if she finally believed someone could stay. For the first time, she wasn't fighting her pain. She was letting me hold it, letting me hold her. And that was the moment she finally broke the last chain from her past. Chapter 7. When she learned love wasn't leaving, the next morning felt different. Not because the sun was brighter, not because the house was quieter, but because she woke up leaning on me, something she never allowed herself to do before. Her head rested on my shoulder, her fingers lightly gripping my shirt, like she was afraid that if she let go, she would lose me. I didn't move. I didn't want to break that moment. Eventually, her eyelashes fluttered, and she slowly opened her eyes. She froze, not in fear, in realization. She realized she had fallen asleep holding on to someone, and that someone hadn't left. "You stayed," she whispered. "I wasn't going anywhere." She swallowed hard, voice cracking. "No one ever stays. I'm not no one." Her eyes softened, not because she trusted me completely yet, but because she wanted to, and wanting to trust someone after trauma is the bravest thing a person can do. She sat up a little, knees pulled close, blanket slipping off her shoulder. I gently pulled it back over her. She watched my hands like she was memorizing the gesture, like no one had ever tucked a blanket around her before. After a long, quiet moment, she spoke. "I had a dream last night." "What kind?" "A memory," she said hollowly, "from when I was forced to stay quiet. When I had to act like I was fine so they wouldn't get angry." I could hear the shaking in her voice. And I kept thinking, what if one day you get tired of me too? I moved closer, gently lifting her chin so she would look at me. "Being with you isn't something I get tired of," I said. "It's something I choose." She blinked. Once. Twice. Those words hit her in a place she had kept locked for years. "But I'm not easy to love," she whispered. "I don't want easy," I said softly. "I want real." Her breath caught. I could see something shifting inside her, not instantly, not magically, but slowly, painfully, beautifully. She leaned forward until her forehead rested against mine. "Why me?" she asked in the smallest voice I'd ever heard. "Because even when you're scared, you're still trying," I answered. "And that makes you stronger than anyone I know." She closed her eyes, and a tear slipped down, not out of pain, but relief. The kind of relief that comes when your heart finally believes it's safe. She whispered, "Then stay with me. Not because I'm broken, but because you want to." "I do," I said simply. Silence again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was warm, soft, healing. She slowly slid her hand into mine, not pulling, not begging, not clinging, just holding. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of wanting someone. For the first time, she was choosing to stay not because she had nowhere to go, but because she finally knew she deserved to be loved without fear. She looked at me with steady, quiet eyes. "I think," her voice trembled, but she didn't look away. "I think I'm ready to let myself be happy." I smiled. "That's all I ever wanted." She exhaled a long, shaky breath, like her soul had been carrying a weight for years, and she had finally set it down. And then she leaned her head on my shoulder again, this time not accidentally, not from exhaustion, but because she wanted to. That was the difference. That was the victory. That was love, and not dramatic, not loud, but slow and soft. And finally safe. The kind of love she never thought she would find. The kind of love she finally believed she deserved.